Hello guys, I'm back from another video and today we're talking about what if Deku was in high school DxD. So in the last video we talked about how after, the whole peerage, or at least, the whole rating game, we currently see Izuku basically in the locker rooms basically, showering. Or at least using the shower room. While he was basically thinking of what he did during the, the battle between him and Riser, well, he would start getting memories or flashbacks from his past life, back when he was still in the My Hero Academia verse, where he was basically now on top of a now limbless body of Bakugo, as Bakugo is asking him for forgiveness for everything that he did. But Izuku doesn't care, and only thinks of him as nothing more than trash, and so wants to kill him. And so he does, ripping him apart with nothing more than his, with his, his Kagane. And after doing so, he would start to laugh manly, knowing that he finally did it. But he wasn't satisfied, and so would ask, Ken, that he should probably go kill more of those bastards who had ruined his life. Starting off with the teachers. And let's just say he's certainly gonna have a lot, and I mean a lot of fun. And so, we go back to Izuku, as Izuku is currently, finishing up some of his, well, you know, him basically changing his clothes. And after doing so, he would basically go back to the arena and would see everybody just looking at him. As Rias would run up to him, as she would say thank you to him, really, pretty much thank you to him, multiple times. Which Izuku, obviously appreciates, but would just tell her that that it's okay. I mean, it's pretty much an obvious reaction to do. As one of them, would obviously say, well, that's a pretty normal reaction, I guess. I mean, you were basically laughing like a madman. But either way, everybody would basically start to leave, specifically Izuku and the rest of, Sona's peerage. But Akeno there, because of her masochistic tendencies, well, oh boy, let's just say she's quite interested in Izuku right now. Even more than she does, in the past. And as for, a pretty lustful Rias, well, Rias wants to have him now. As, not really, a peerage member, but more like a little plaything. Even though it sounds weird, I mean, it's more in the more... Actually, I'm not even going to say it. Actually, you can probably connect the dots right there. As everybody else was basically getting ready for the, used to be party for, or wedding for Riser and, Rias, but now it's going to be changed for the, going to be changed into the, a party for the, I guess you can say celebration for Ria's, beating Riser in her first, peerage battle. And so, after basically leaving, we currently see Izuku basically changing his clothes. So, after changing his clothes into some, some simple, tuxedo type shit, he would start leaving with the rest of his, with the rest of his peerage mates, or at least sort of, with the help, with, Sona right behind them. And so, they would teleport towards, where the party is. After arriving there and also meeting some people, which, most of the people there were basically looking away because they know that if they were to piss them off or, act a little bit prideful and things of that sort, well, let's just say, their asses are going to be grass and that grass is going to be burned alive. Oh boy. And while he was basically, talking to, Rias and also, Issei, he would get noticed by a certain red-haired man. And apparently, his name was Sergius Lucifer, or Sergius Lucifer, aka the brother of, Rias. And after meeting with him, he would start talking to him, profusely, just thanking him for basically beating Riser. And, meanwhile, currently with the, with the family of, Phoenix, well, they're currently seeing their son basically now ruined. And not only that, let's just say, in social media, in hell, or, the underworld, or the nether realm, let's just say everybody's basically donking on them. And even saying that, because of their asshole-ish, personalities, well, it was obviously deserved. And let's just say, the Phoenix Land is not really happy. I mean, thankfully, both of their, both Riser's parents are actually pretty understanding, but they're still pretty much, depressed knowing that their son is basically now ruined. And so would ask, well, ask one of them specifically, well, her mother, aka, Miss Phoenix, what is Riser going to do? I mean, he's no longer the head of the household because of his, no longer having a ding-a-ling over there. So, because of this, you know, you know, Mr. Not I meant Mr. Phoenix would basically decide that instead of Riser, instead, you know, Ravel is going to be the new head of the, the Phoenix clan. And after being told of this, she would start to cry, knowing that her brother is now ruined, and her family name is now ruined because of him. Even though she doesn't resent him, well, sort of, but I mean, it was sort of is justified. But still, he didn't really need to basically torture him to the point that he's basically now has PTSD and probably has, well, pretty much a horrible, horrible paranoia. I meant paranoia. And so they would decide to go to the party, even though that's probably a bad idea. And so all of them would basically start leaving to go to the party. But while with Izuku was, talking to to him, as when he was told that, he was pretty thankful for beating like Riser, as he would go into full bitch mode right there. Like, instantly, like, going into full nagging mode. Basically saying that he absolutely loves seeing people, arrogant people basically falling into despair by his hands, as it would cause a lot of bloodlust to basically leak out of him, which caused many of the people there, including Surgeons and other Satan, class, devils to basically start, falling to the ground and basically, huffing and puffing. While lower class are basically now just fainting. Just instantly fainting. As when, Ravel arrived with the rest of, her used-to-be brother's peerage, well, they would felt like they would instantly feel the absolute terror and malice coming out of his voice. Basically, instantly falling to the ground and being afraid of what the hell is going on. As after a while of ranting, he would basically stop and would say sorry for basically doing that. But, he would decide to just tell him that it's okay. I mean, it was pretty justified. Sort of. And so, after saying that, Sergius, or I'm just gonna call him Lucifer-sama, or Lucifer for now, because Sergius is just a weird name in my opinion. As, Lucifer would basically tell everybody that, it's a pretty good celebration, and, the festivities would finally start. And would basically bring in Izuku to basically act as like, well, I guess you see another announcer. As he would basically, tell everybody that was pretty happy to be here, and, some of the people there were pretty much clapping for him, but they're mostly clapping out of fear and, sort of reverence. And so, after a while, the doors would finally open, and you would see, a pretty, terrified and scared, Peerage of Riser, or used to be, Peerage of Riser, and, Ravel herself, which everybody's now looking at them with absolute disgust. Mostly because of what, of what they did. Oh boy! And let's just say all of them are currently being glared at, as, one of them, specifically Ravel, would basically come up to Izuku and ask him a few questions. But after a while of talking, and also a bit of an awkward, interaction, she would ask him to basically follow her to basically talk with him. And after deciding to basically go with her, he would start leaving with her. And so, after arriving outside, she would ask him a question. But before we can actually hear the question, well, we basically ended off the episode right off there. So, yeah, let us talk about what happens next, boys and girls, ladies and gents. So, we currently see, a different perspective. In this case, Ravel. And this is sort of a flashback. So, Ravel's currently, sort of in, her, not really, actually, yeah, it is her, her dressing, like, for the, party. As she would say this, what is it, father, she would say, as she was currently in the office of, well, Mr. Phoenix, including, Mrs. Phoenix, aka her, mother and father. As Mr. Phoenix would say this. Now, I want you to try and, at least have good relations with Izuku over there, she would say. Specifically, her mother. As she would say this. But, wait, what? As she would say this. Yes, because of his power, and not only that, his weird looking device that he's able to get the DNA of other species, well, she would start looking at, her father, aka, her husband, as, Mr. Phoenix would say this. Yes, I want you to try and, at least get him to at least like you. And maybe even make him marry into the family, he would say. As she would say this. Wait, what? As she would say this. Specifically her mother. Yes, I want you to at least, get good relations with him. And not only that, at least, how do we see this? She would start thinking to herself, I know, maybe try and, bear his children, she would say. As Ravel would start, blushing a little bit, as she would say this. But, yeah, I mean, she would say this. No buts. Besides, it's technically your brother's fault, so you have to, take this as your responsibility. After all, you are the new Phoenix head, soon to be, she would say. As she would say this. But, mother, as she would say this. No buts. You're gonna do it. And it's technically your brother's fault, so you have to take the brunt of it. Now, go, she would say. As she would say this. Fine, mother, she would say. As after saying that, she would start leaving. As after, leaving, she would start leaving with the rest of her, with her, with the rest of her fellow peerage members. So, back to the present. As Izuku would say this. So, what do you want to talk about? As she would say this. Well, what the? Sorry about that. As she would say this. So, I want you, well, I want you to, as she would start getting a little bit blush on her face, as she would say this. Want you to what? As she would say this. Well, you see, after, my brother's defeat, well, you see, our family's currently being undermined. And not only that, being, ridiculed because of our our loss. And not only that, because of our, or at least my brother's arrogance. Well, let's just say our family is now basically ruined, she would say. As he would say this. Well, it makes sense, after all, he was an asshole, he would say. As she would say this. Yes, I do have to agree, but still, he's still my brother. As he would say this. But anyway, so why do you want me here exactly? As she would say this. Well, because of you losing my, basically winning against my brother, and because of him now being crippled to the point that he can no longer be a head of the Phoenix household, well, my father told me that I had to at least get good relations with you, to at least not let this happen ever again, she would say. As he would say this. Right, he would say, as he would look towards her, as she would say this. And not only that, well, she would start bowing down as she would say this. Will you please marry me, she would say. As after saying that, he would start looking confused, as he would say, huh? As she would say this. You see, after you defeated my brother, well, you see, my father told me that I had to marry you. Mostly because it, as Izuku would start, having this, face. This specific face. So, just imagine him having this confused face. As he goes like, what? As she would say this. Well, you see, after you defeated my brother, well, I was forced by my parents to basically marry you. After all, you are strong, and not only that, because of your abilities, and because you now have the DNA of a phoenix, well, it makes sense that you have to marry me, she would say. As his face just says it all. Just this face. Sorry about that. As, Izuku would just say this. Hold up. You said that you're, that you're going to marry me, he would say. I should say this. Yes, exactly. As Izuku would say this. Well, unfortunately, I'm currently going to get married to Sona, he would say. As she would say this. Well, yeah, she would start, looking at him and then looking back, looking towards a different, place. As she would say this. Well, it's okay. Polygamy in, you know, is pretty much okay in the nether realm. As you would say this. No, 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 it's not like that. I swear. And besides, I'm not really into that type of relationship at all. He would say. As she would say this. Wait, really? She would start looking at him as he would say this. Yeah, I'm not really into relationships, not at all yet. But still, I'm sorry, but I'm not really interested. But before he can say anything else, somebody walks behind him. As after hearing the footsteps, he would look back and would see, well, most of his friends. Like, for example, Therese Spearage, Susana Spearage, and also, Surges, and also Graphia. As all of them were just looking at him, as Izuku would say this. Uh, how much did you hear? As we currently see Sona with a face full of rage, and also her eyes are basically just like being covered by her hair, as she would say this. Everything, she would say. As he would say this. Oh crap, he would start saying to himself. As he would say this. Hold on, I'm not really into that, I swear. She would say this. Oh, I know. She would start looking at, towards, well, towards, well, you know, Ravel, as her eyes just says it all. It says, time to fuck a person up. As so does, well, her water ability will start showing. More specifically, the water around her would start, well, shifting. As it would grow, well, into a large hand. As she would grab, Ravel by the, by the body. As she would say this. Don't you think that you can steal Izuku away, she would say. As she would say this. I swear, it's nothing like that. We could definitely share us, we clearly see her with an angered face. Even though it definitely looks like a simple smile, but beneath that is absolute rage and absolute anger. As Ravel's basically fearing for her life right now. As Izuku would start looking away, basically saying, and that is technically your fault, he would say to himself. As, Ravel's basically just scared what is about to happen to her. As she would say this, I'm sorry, Miss Citri, I swear, I won't do anything like that anymore, she would say. As she would say this. Good. She would start, dropping the girl basically towards the ground. As she would say this. Next time, do not try and steal anybody. Especially from people that are already taken, she would say. As Izuku would say to himself, yeah, I'm definitely not gonna anger her if we get married, he would say to himself. As after saying that, he would start looking towards Sona. As Sona would say this. Alright, let's go back to the party, she would say. As Izuku would say this. Oh, right, he would say. As, Surges would say this. Dang, you're lucky, he would say. As he would say this. Are you sure that's damn luck? It's more like an absolute nightmare, he would say. As he would say this. Well, try not to do anything weird with Sona when you get married. I definitely want to see some little, Izuku's running around, he would say with a laugh. As, Grafia would say this. I can certainly help you, she would say. As Izuku would say this. As his face would start becoming completely, flushed. As, Issei is just saying to herself, yeah, she would start looking at him. As she would say this. Besides, I'm gonna be making Izuku my first, she would say. As everybody just starts looking at Issei. As, she would say this. What? As all of them would just sigh and they would just go back. Currently, we go back to, well, her. As she would say this. Dang it, she would say. Specifically, Ravel. As, Ravel would say this. Me to try again. Maybe I could definitely try and enroll into that school, apparently, she would say to herself. Yeah, I can definitely see that, she would say. As after, saying that to herself, she would start, running towards, well, going back to the party. As after arriving back, she would see Izuku basically on stage, well, being forced to do some karaoke with Surges. While Surges is basically singing, Izuku is currently suffering because he doesn't know how to sing all that much. What the fuck? Sorry about that. That was just stupid. God dang it, that video. If you know what video that I was watching earlier in the background, that was, the cat that's basically, running away from, the stench of beans. More specifically, refried beans. God damn it, that sound! Anyway, continue on. She would see Izuku struggling to sing, as after noticing him with that, awkward smile, even though technically that sing is actually pretty good, decent enough, as it would cause many people to basically cheer for him, mostly out of respect, and some actually generally liking it, as, after hearing his singing voice, she would start to blush even more, as she would say, why am I getting that face? She would start looking to herself. She would grab, a compact mirror. She would start looking at her face, seeing that she's blushing. As she'd say, why am I feeling this? She would say to herself, am I really falling in love with him? She would start, looking towards Izuku once again, as Izuku is still trying to sing, but it's still pretty much good, decent enough. As she would start, becoming a little bit, flush even more. As she would say this. She would start, looking away, as she would start looking towards Sona, and also Rias. As she would say this. Right, she would start going towards them, and would ask them if she is, some simple things, like, for example, how's the weather? Which, both of them are just basically suspicious of her, as one of them would say this. Specifically, Sona. I know that you have an interior motive right now, she would say. She would say this. Well, I mean, you're right, she would say. She would say this. Sona would just sigh, as she would say this. So what do you want, she would say. Sona would say this. Well, I wanted to ask if I could join Kuoh Academy, she would say. After saying that, everybody would just look at her. Mostly, Soda's and also, Rias' peerages. Oh boy. Sorry about that. Anyway, continue on with the episode. Wait for a second, god dang it. Sorry about that. Anyway, continue on with the episode. As, both of them are, every single, member that are, every single, peerage members from, both Sona and, Rias' peerages are basically looking at her. As EC would say this. And why should we trust you, she would say. She would say this. Well, I just want to, forge a good relationship with him. Mostly because, I feel absolutely sorry. I feel deeply sorry for what my brother did to you. Especially Yuri, as she would say. She would say this. I mean, it was not technically your fault, but, it's still your brother's fault. But either way, why should we trust you? I mean, after hearing what you did, or what you were, telling him, well, I definitely don't trust you, she would say. As, Sona would adamantly agree. I mean, because remember, she's being, she's going to be, marrying Izuku. As she would say this. Well, because, what you said earlier, I'm definitely not letting you in, she would say. She would say this. Oh, come on. Besides, I won't do anything with him. I swear. I'm just going to be asking him a few questions and maybe get a close bond with him. I swear it's nothing else entirely. I swear, she would say to them. As one of them would say this. Sure, said, Momo, which is the white-haired girl. Wait for a second. As, she would say this. Fine, said Sona, with, a somewhat exhausted tone. As she would say this. Wait, really? Said Momo. As she would say this. Yes, but I will let one of my council members, as, Rias would say this, and one of my peerage members, as both of them would say this, to watch over you if you don't, in case of you doing anything weird to Izuku. As, Sona would just look at him, look at her, specifically, at Rias, as she would say this. Why exactly? She would start looking towards, her, aka Rias, as she would say this. Well, because Issei's, after all, I mean, she is, he is, after all, Issei's, childhood friend, so it makes sense they have to protect him. I mean, why not? After all, my family specializes in taking care of our peers members just like family, she would say. And that includes others, including Izuku, she would say. As she would say this. Yeah, sure, she would say. As she would say this to herself. Yes, she would start looking, she would just basically, like pump up into the sky a little bit. As, Soda would just look back at her as she would say this. Oh, nothing, she would say, with a bit of a laugh. As she would say this. Right, she would start looking towards, well, to her, specifically, Ravel, as Ravel would say this. Thank you, she would say, as she would bow down, as she would start leaving, going back to her, to her brother's peerage. So, after doing so, we currently go back to Izuku, with, a pretty happy Surges, as Surges would say this. Dang, you were good, said, Surges, as he would say this. I mean, I'm not really that good. I mean, I'm not really used to singing, he would say. As he would say this. Really? Then why is your song, how is your singing that good? He would say. As he would say this. It's not really that good, I swear, he would say. As he would say this. Really? Then why did you sound so amazing, he would say. As he would say this. Well, actually I don't know, he would say. As he would say this. I see. Then Izuku, he would start looking at him as he would say this. Yeah? He would start looking at him as he would say this. Well, it seems that, one of my fellow Satans wants to talk with you. More specifically, as they would hear the door open, as they would hear, "Hey, Sona-chan!" After hearing that, they would look over and would see, Seraphal Leviathan. Oh god, as she would start, going towards, Soda, as she would say this. Oh no, she would basically be talking with Dana, she would say this. It's been a long time since I've seen you again, she would say, as she would say this. But it's been like an hour, she would say, as, she would say this. It's too many, she would say. Besides, I'm pretty much done with my work, so I can finally get some mean time with you. As she would say this. No, she would say, as, we currently see Izuku just looking at him, as he would say this. So you're saying that I'm going to be talking with her, aka Sona's, or at least, sort of King's, sister, he would say, as he would say this. Yeah, apparently she wants to talk with you. As Izuku would say this. He would start looking at her, as she would say this. Oh, as she would start looking towards Izuku, as she would run up to him, as she would say this. Hey, Izuku-kun, she would say, as he would say this. Oh, hello there, Miss Leviathan, he would say, as she would say this. Just don't call me that, she would say, as he would say this. What? As she would say this. It's a bit too formal. Just call me, yeah. She would start looking towards Izuku as she would say this. Just call me Seraphal, she would say, as he would say this. Okay then, Seraphal, he would say, as she would say this. Good. Now, as she would basically bring him towards, to Sona's group, aka Sona's peerage, as Izuku would say this. As he would basically be flung towards them, as she would say this. Now, I wanted to ask you this, as she would say this. Would you like to join me in my, in my little, show, she would say, as you'd say this. Show? You would just look at her, as she would say this. Well, yeah, I do have a show, though, she would say, and this show is called, as she would basically twirl her wand, as her body would start to change, transforming instead of the normal dress that she was wearing at the time, instead now changing into her magical girl outfit, as she would say this. Magical girl Leviathan, she would say. After saying that, Izuku would start looking at her, as he would just sigh as he would say this. So you're saying that you want me to join your show? As she would say this. Uh-huh. As a co-star. Uh-huh, she would say. As you would say this. I'm not interested, he would say. As she would say, oh, come on, she would say. As she would start falling towards Izuku. As, we currently see, Seraphal basically just there, just like, why the fuck? She would say to herself, wait for a second. And she would start following him, as, clearly, Sona would say to herself. I'm definitely not letting him join that, she would say. As she would start following them, as, we currently see Izuku basically walking through the hallway, as, Seraphal would say this. Come on, can you please join? I mean, it's not really that bad, she would say. As he would say this. No, I'm not joining your show. There's no way, he would say. And especially after I heard that, your show is certainly not really for kids, he would say. As she would say this. Oh, come on, I mean, the demographic is mostly kids, as he would say this. You mean man-children, he would say. As she would say this. Actually, maybe you're right, but still, she would say. Come on, can you please join, maybe just like one time? As Izuku would say this. Like I said, no, he would say. As she would say this. Oh, come on, she would say. As, her sister basically following her, basically, Sona would say this. Like I said, he's not joining, she would say. As she would say this. Oh, come on, Sona-tan, she would say. Besides, it would be a great show. And besides, I could definitely see him as being like... As she would start daydreaming, thinking about him being like, Leviathan's like, new love interest in the show. Oh god, and I'm definitely gonna add her today. You can't tell me otherwise. She's also another best girl. Oh god, I'm also probably gonna be adding like another girl. I'm gonna give you a hint. She has not. Okay, she's a yokai. I just imagine everybody just going like, you know the slightest idea how little that narrows it down. As I would say, well, she has fox ears. Any other one probably has cat ears and black hair. Anyway, continue on. As Izuku's basically going outside. As he would say this. Hey, Sona, he would say, as she would say this. What is it? She would start looking at him, as he would say this. I'm pretty tired, so, I'm gonna be getting some sleep now. Can you please, teleport me back, teleport me back to the mansion, he would say, as she would say this. Sure, she would say. She would start looking back towards Sona, not Sona, I meant, to her sister, aka Seraphal, as she would say this. Do not, she would say, as she would start following Izuku, as she would basically teleport him back to, to the, not Leviathan, I meant the, Citri household. As currently back with, to Seraphal's, perspective, as she would say this. What the As we currently, see Seraphal basically saying this to herself. I should have told him that the pay is pretty good. And maybe I should probably ask for some people to basically make a costume for him. I can certainly just get the measurements after he falls asleep, she would say. I can even look at his... As she would start licking her lips a little bit. As we currently go back to Izuku. As we currently see Izuku basically, still pretty much tired, as Sona would say this. We're back now, as she would say this. Thanks, Sona, he would say. As she would say this. Anyway, you can probably go to my room and basically sleep there. As she would say this. Thanks. As she would say this. If you, if you ever feel, a little bit, awkward, just tell me when I get back. As he would say this. Sure. As after saying that, he would start leaving to go to Sona's bedroom, and would so basically change his clothes, and would fall asleep instantly. So, after waking up, he would start feeling, Sona right beside him. As he would say this. Why do I feel like this is starting to sound really starting to feel a little bit normal, he would say to himself. As he would also feel another body. As he would start, feeling a little bit, afraid who that is. as you would start to feel some pretty huge melons and some pretty thick thighs, if you get what I mean. As you would start, look towards the side and would see Sarah fall. As you start, sweating a lot, mostly out of fear, as you would say this to himself. Oh no. Oh no, you would start thinking to himself as you would start thinking to himself this. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. As you would start thinking to himself even more. Oh god, what if Soda wakes up? Oh god, she's about to kill me, he would say to himself. As he would start to hear the sound of, the sound of somebody being awake. Morning, Izuku, she would say. As he would look back and would see, well, Soda. As Soda is currently, pretty much tired, as she would start rubbing her eyes, as she would open her eyes and would see Izuku and his arm, or at least his other arm, is being, held on to by a somewhat half-naked, Sarah Fall. After seeing this situation, well, her eyes started becoming covered by darkness. As you'd see this. Hold on, I swear, it's nothing like this. I swear, it's nothing as you'd see this. Oh, don't worry, I already know. But I think it's time for me to punish my big sister, she would say. And so, she would activate her, water manipulation, and would basically wake up Sarah Fall instantly with some cold water nearby. So, yeah. Wait for a second. As he would start looking at her, specifically, well, towards, Sarah Fall, as Sarah Fall would wake up, as she would say this, what the? As she would look towards, a pretty angry Soda, as she would say this. Oh, hello, Soda-tan, and, oh, hey, Izuku, she would say with a lustful smile, as she would start looking towards his body. You see, Izuku is not wearing a shirt right now. As you can obviously see, Izuku's like, ripped body, and including some of the scars that, are still somewhat healing. But most of the time, he would sometimes, leave some of the scars there. Mostly as, as trophy scars, I guess you can say. What the Sorry about that. Anyway, continuing on, as we currently see, Sarah Fall, basically, looking at Izuku's body, as she would say this. Dang, you're actually pretty nice when you're... As before she could say anything else, she was shot, by a water-like spear. As she would jump back a little bit, as she would basically create some ice to basically, block from the nearby water-like weapons basically being launched at her. After making the large ice, wall, or whatever you want to call it, as she would say this. Soda-chan, Soda-chan, I'm really sorry, she would say, as she would say this. First of all, I told you that he's my husband. Second of all, and I told you last time that you're not allowed to do anything with him. Third of all, as she would start looking towards Izuku, as she would say this. Can you please make breakfast, she would say. As he would say this. Well, I can certainly do that, he would say. Anyway, where's the kitchen? He would say, as she would say this. Nearby the, dining room. As after saying that, he would start moving towards there. As after doing so, he would say goodbye to, Soda. As we currently hear the screams of, Sarah Fall basically running away instantly. Wait for a second. So, after, after hearing the screams of, Soda basically beating down her sister, he would basically arrive at the kitchen as he would start cooking. He would decide to make some katsudon, and also for the others, he would decide to make, some, Western-style dishes for, for their breakfast. And after, everybody basically wakes up, including, Sona's parents, and after seeing the meal that he created, they would just start to eat, and they would compliment him in his cooking, which, was a pretty good talent of his. I mean, especially during his time when he was a ghoul. I mean, being forced to eat human flesh was a bit of a new experience for him, so he learned how to make some pretty good, flavorings for him to basically, sort of cover up, the taste of like, human meat. Even though to him it's, tastes like, pretty nice to him. But he really wants to eat, katsudan again. So he would decide to basically, well, use different seasonings, including, breadcrumbs, or at least, sort of like breadcrumbs, sort of, to basically create, a sort of katsudan, but made out of human flesh. So going back to the, to the present, everybody was basically finishing up eating as, Sona would basically tell everybody that, later they're gonna be leaving and going back to, going back to the human world. And so after being told of this, everybody would start packing up all of their things. So, after packing up all of their things, they would start getting ready to leave, and they would say goodbye to, to Sona's parents, including Sona herself, as Izuku would basically bow down as he would say this. Thank you for their, hospitality, he would say. As, one of them would say this. Oh, don't worry about it, said, Mr., well, what's his face? Said, well, Mr., Mr. Citri, as Miss Citri would say this. Yes, we're pretty happy for you basically being, her husband, she would say, as he would say this. Yeah, and I promise to be a good husband for her, he would say, as both of them would say this. Don't worry, we'll know that you're going to be a great husband, he would say. And after saying that, he would start leaving with the rest of, with the, with the others. Specifically, the rest of, like, Sona's peerage. And as for, well, a pretty sad, well, Sarah Fall, she would say goodbye to, Izuku and, Sona. As she would start crying, after, a while. As Izuku would start hearing her, voice all the way, all the way, completely, outside of their territory now. And after arriving at the, arriving where they're supposed to basically be leaving to go to the human world, he would see, the rest. More specifically, Ryu's peerage as well. As after, basically nodding their heads, they would be teleported back to Kuoh. And after arriving at Kuoh, wait for a second. So yeah, after arriving in Kuoh, he would say this, specifically Izuku. So, guys, I'm gonna be going back to my house, okay? I'm probably, well, pretty tired. And I also want to see, some of my, well, sort of roommates, he would say. Someone would say this. Sure then. Now, you can leave now, he would say this. Okay then, bye, he would say as he would start leaving. As he would say this. Oh, and by the way, hope to see you, back at school, next week, he would say. As she would say this. Me too, she would say. And after doing so, he would start leaving, going back to his house. So, after texting, well, Calviner that he's basically arriving back at his house, she would say, or at least text back, okay then. As after basically doing so, he would basically arrive back at his house. He would basically knock on the, gate as Millet would basically arrive, as Millet would basically open the door, as she would say this. Oh, hello Izuku. I finally get to meet with you again, she would say. As he would say this. Yeah. Huh. So, how was your day? As she would say this. Yeah, pretty fine. I mean, it was pretty, okay-ish, with you basically gone, but let's just say it's not been, well, fun ever since you left. As he would say this. Yeah, I can definitely see why. As he would open the door, and after opening the door, he would just see, Calviner basically, basically cleaning up some things. And as for, well, Rainer was nowhere to be found. As he would say this. Hey, guys, where's Rainer? As she would say this, specifically Millet. Oh, she's currently, trying to buy a cake for your, for your turn. As he would say this. Ah, I see. Then, guys, I'm gonna be getting some sleep now. So, tell me if, Rainer's back, because I'm gonna be making dinner for all of you guys. As, Rainer would say that, not Rainer, I meant, Calviner would say this. Oh, thank God, she would say, as she would say this. Why? He would start looking at her, as she would say this. Well, ever since you left, well, we've been craving your cooking again, she would say, as you'd start laughing a little bit as you'd say this. Yeah, sure, I promise to make you some pretty good meals later, okay? As after saying that, he would start leaving to go to his, room. And after unpacking all of his things and putting them back in their proper spots, he would basically go onto his bed, and so he would fall to sleep. So, we go to a different perspective. We're currently in Italy, as one of them would say this, specifically a voice. Now, as we hear a voice, Irina Shudao and Zenobia Quarta, he would say, as a large priest-like man was speaking, as two people would basically arrive. One of them seems to be, wearing a simple, cloak, and the other seems to be wearing a skin-tight battlesuit. The one with the skin-tight battlesuit was a girl actually, let me just say this. She kind of looks like Earth-chan. And I can't unsee that. I mean, just because she has that blue hair and has that green streak, I just can't unsee that she looks like Earth-chan. Seriously. And as for the other girl, she seems to be a girl with pigtails and seems to have, ginger hair and, purplish eyes, or I guess you could say violet eyes, as, the priest would say this. Now, I want you to go to Kuoh. Kuoh seems to have a lot of things happening to it. But not only that, I think we found who is the culprit of stealing the Excaliburs. As one of them would say this. Yes, Grand Priest said, the girl with the, with the bluish hair, with the, with that, greenish streak. As the one with the pigtails would say this. Yes, Grand Priest, she would say. And they would start leaving, as he would say this. Now, don't forget, get the Excalibur fragments immediately. And if if you get in contact with those devils of Kuoh, at least try to cooperate with them. For now, he would say, as both of them would say this. Yes, sir, they would say. And they would start leaving, as one of them would say this. So, Irina, she would say, as she would say this. Yes, Zenobia, she would say, as, the girl by the name of Zenobia, aka the blue-haired one with the, green streak would say this. So, is it true that your best friends are apparently from Japan, or more specifically from Kuoh? As she would say this. Yes, we can definitely go live with them, but I think it's better if we go with Izuku for now. I mean, I've been wanting to see him again. As she would say this. Very well, she would say. And after saying that, they would start leaving the church. That's where they were currently at. And we basically pan out and would basically end off the episode right off there. So yeah, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!